Hello and welcome to
Pop Off, Sis! The show where we talk about life, current events, and, well, ourselves.
I'm your co-host, Lydia.
And I'm your co-host, Margot. Welcome to this week's episode. Hey, guys. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Oh, my gosh. What is life right now?
What a time we are currently in. So, Lydia and I have fortunately been able to figure out a way to socially distantly be able to record the podcast. We are FaceTiming while we are recording through an app at the same time. Thank goodness for technology. And so hopefully we'll be able to keep up with our regular uploading schedule. But yeah, a lot of stuff has changed in the past couple of weeks, and it's been a crazy time.
It's been so crazy. It's weird to even think that this is going to be our new normal, but this is our new whatever you want to call it. And, you know, things are changing every day. So we're just trying to keep up like you guys are.
Oh, and just a little FYI, if you're thinking, it's weird, their voices don't sound as crisp and as clear as I remember them. Well, we were using some fancy schmancy UMD provided microphones and podcasting studio, and now we are using our phones and headphone microphones. So there may be a difference in quality of the sound, but not quality of the content, because we're still here and we're still popping off.
Content on 100. Quality, not our fault.
Not our fault. COVID-19 got us like.
So we do want to start on a positive note because this episode will be all about COVID-19. Not so much from a factual standpoint, but from a point of our thoughts, our feelings of where we are right now. Obviously, by the time you hear this, things could be drastically different. So we just want to let you know how we're feeling, what we're doing to stay busy, all those things. Mm-hmm. But in a time where we can think of a million thorns, we want to start with just some roses because we all need that right now, don't you think?
What's keeping you going, Lydia, this week? What's a positive? What's something that sparked joy?
What sparks joy for me is trying to do things that I never, quote unquote, had time to do before or was putting off doing. And one of those things for me is pleasure reading. I'm trying to actually get to a list that I started like literally years ago of all the books that I want to read, because I used to love to read and I really do not enjoy reading anymore because of school. But we've obviously had some extra time off and extra time to do things. So I'm trying to actually get to that list and start reading for fun, because in more ways than one, it's a way to escape, you know. While we might be physically quarantined, our minds are not. Imagination can still run wild. So I'm excited to delve into that.
Love that.
How about you, Margot?
I learned how to make bread from scratch. So that was an exciting quarantine activity. Got some flour, got some yeast, got some water, and ended up with some delicious focaccia and sourdough. So
you speak Italian now. Okay.
Oh, you know I do.
Whoa. So you can actually buy yeast?
Yeah, you can buy yeast in the grocery store. Although apparently they're saying right now it's kind of sold out, like toilet paper, because everyone wants to make their own bread right now.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of funny, but
that's awesome. And it was good.
Oh, it was so good. I ate it for every single meal. Like, I would just eat pieces of bread. Guys, the quarantine munchies are real.
Oh my God, so real. The amount of like munchkins and random donuts and candy and popcorn and chewy bars that are downstairs in my kitchen. Ugh.
The stress eating is real. I love it.
I know. I mean, what else are we going to do? Eat, sleep, watch TV, read. All
then eventually do homework.
That's the other thing, though. We are starting school next week. So basically, UMD gave us a second week of spring break. So our last day of classes was actually Thursday, March 12th, because they just decided to give us Friday, March 13th off because everything was going crazy. So our original spring break was the week of March 16th through the 20th, but then they actually gave us off March 23rd to the 27th. So this coming Monday, which is when this episode comes out, the day this episode is released will be the first day back to virtual classes. So catch us on Zoom. So let's get into it. COVID-19, aka coronavirus. There's a lot to say that I'm sure you've heard in some form and fashion, but we just wanted to give you our thoughts of how we're feeling. So as of March 26th, there are officially 500,000 global cases of coronavirus. The death toll in the United States has reached 1,000. So obviously things are getting very real. What's going on globally, Margot?
Yeah, so it's a really crazy time. I think the wildest fact that I've had to kind of process is that this virus first showed up in China in December, and that it's now the end of March, and it's only now that a lot of Americans are fully understanding the power and that this virus has and how impactful it's going to be. Just because, we are far away. We were one of the later, more well-developed countries to have it hit us. But, I have family in France, and they have been under full quarantine, full, like, you can't leave your house. If you leave, you have to have a specific reason. They have police in the street that literally ask you where you're going. Like, I think they just said you're allowed to exercise. You can only run within 1 kilometer of your house. It has to be by yourself. So if you want to do like a 5K, for example, like you want to go on a run, you just have to keep doing the same 1 kilometer over and over. And in China, even before France, even before, in Italy, people aren't even allowed to go to funerals right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't go to your family member's funeral. They are running out of supplies. It's craziness. And I watched this video about this city in China where they had been able to get their new amount of coronavirus patients coming into the hospitals and such down to 0. And when you looked at the preventative measures and the insane precautions that they are taking, it's really hard to look at the US right now and think that we're going on a downward trajectory. Like, I still think that we haven't reached our peak yet. And the data is just constantly changing. In China, they said that the virus was mainly affecting the elderly, and that it was the elderly population that we really had to be worried for. And in the US, it's 40% of patients who are in the hospital from coronavirus are between 20 and 50 years old. So, it changes per country. It changes in the way that the government of each country decides to deal with it. Like in China, they literally had drones flying around neighborhoods, and if you left your house, it would just yell at you to go back inside.
Whoa.
I need to send you this video. It's insane. They took the temperature of everybody who, like, if you were going on a subway car, like going on a metro system, they check your temperature to let you into the metro. Like, you had to have like a normal temperature to go in. And then every car that you went into on the subway, you had to scan on your phone so that they could track. They essentially made it so they could track you every spot you went during the day, although China has very different technology and tracks their citizens a very different way than the US could ever, because we don't really have that lack of privacy. But they tracked everywhere you go. So if you had coronavirus, they could literally track every single place that you went, where you might have caught it, what your temperature was at that point. All of that to say, things are really crazy, and the US being one of the last places to take it seriously is, I think, going to have a really detrimental effect on the US, on America.
I agree, and I think we have not peaked in any way, no matter what anyone says. We are definitely weeks, but perhaps months behind countries like China. What's really interesting to me is how Americans are taking so long to take this seriously and resisting taking this seriously. And part of that to me has to do with our mentality and way of life here that is very do what you want, freedom of speech, freedom to do what you want. And I think that makes it very uniquely hard for our country to be controlled in this kind of way.
For sure. 100%. Having a capitalistic society, having freedom be the basis of, you know, what our entire government was built on, and, you know, just the mentality people have about keeping that freedom makes it really hard to control when you compare it to a place like China, where people have very limited freedoms compared to, you know, what we do in the US. Yeah, it's much harder to control a body of people who are like, well, you don't really have any control over me, because that's the whole point. The government's not supposed to be able to control what I do. But in times like these, I mean, where this shit, I mean, it's insane. There hasn't been another pandemic since 1919, I believe. And how do you control a society that believes in not being controlled?
So what about the economical repercussions of this? I mean, these different industries, just speaking within the US in particular, what does this mean for service workers? And how about in a place like New York City, where it's one of the hot spots of this virus, what does this mean for theater? What does this mean for, you know, our way of life when it comes to workers?
I mean, I just don't know. You know, there's lots of economics professors and experts who are trying to, you know, predict what's exactly is going to come of this. And I've read some articles that have said that, you know, the recession that's going to come from this is going to be worse than in 2008. It's going to be the only thing that's going to be comparable to is the Great Depression. Right now, if you work as a part of the service industry, it is really a really scary time, and it's really full of uncertainty, because the thing is, it's not just that you don't have a job now, that like if you're working in a restaurant or, you know, in a clothing store or a bakery or whatever it be, it might be like, oh, your store is closed right now, but also there's no definitive date of when you're going to open again, or when you're going to be able to have customers, or if you're going to be laid off. Like a lot of restaurants have just been laying off their employees so that they can file for unemployment. If our restaurant is able to reopen after this, like, you'll still have a job here, but we just can't give you one right now, which is smart, because being able to file for unemployment is like the least you can do right now. But for me, on a personal note, looking at the theater industry, I'm scared. Like, I'm so glad I'm not graduating this semester, because Broadway's gone dark. I mean, after Broadway went dark, I was like, oh gosh. Because
That was your
Broadway,
personal world closing.
literally, because here's the thing, like, Broadway is such a profitable place. It's the mecca of theater because of the amount of money that it makes. It is a tourist attraction. And once they go dark, every other theater, if Broadway's not making money, nobody else is making money, is kind of how you see it. I had a bunch of internships that I applied to who hadn't posted final decisions yet, you know, send us emails about it for theater internships. I had a couple just straight up cancel, be like, COVID-19, the very few, because I've been looking for an internship in New York City for this summer for theater, and there are very few that actually pay you. And the few that do emailed out and were like, oh, we're canceling our internship. And I had an interview yesterday for a theater in DC for an internship this summer, and they said they're not reopening until the end of April. So entire seasons of content that was going to be put, you know, of shows that were going to be produced are just wiped or postponed. And it's a really scary time, because, you know, my mom was saying, oh, hopefully when all this is over, people are going to be so tired of being cooped up that everyone's going to leave, and everyone's just going to want to travel and buy things and like go buy tickets to stuff and go see stuff. And I'm like, yeah, the people who are fortunate enough to be in that financial position, I think they are going to go crazy and be like, I want to go see like 10 movies this week, or, you know, go see this show, whatever. But the reality of the situation is a lot of people are going to be hurt really badly financially, and they're not going to have the money to pay for, a $40 theater ticket. Well, 40, that's kind of cheap for theater. So like 40 or more. And a bunch of my friends who are graduating this semester have just kind of been like, what world waits for me when I graduate in this industry? Will there even be enough shows being produced? Because the thing is, if a bunch of smaller theater companies, go out of business, it just creates more competition for actors. And also, most actors do serve other service industry jobs on the side so that they are able to still pursue acting. So it's like, not only is their acting gig, like they don't know what the deal is with that, but they can't even work in the restaurants to make their side hustle cash. So
they're getting hit from both ends.
yeah, it's a really scary time. But Lydia, what has Corona meant for school so far and for your graduation and the rest of your senior spring?
When I tell you, Margot, like this could not have been okay. There was never a good time for Corona to happen, but if I had to pick the worst time ever, it would be being a senior in her spring semester of college, her last 3 months of everything. Basically, coronavirus has kind of just messed up plans, which I understand, that saying about we make plans and God laughs, but literally all of our plans for graduation, memories on campus for the last time have all literally been canceled. Our president of the University of Maryland has announced, like many schools, that there will be no in-person graduation for the spring of
No.
2020. Yes, it's very sad. I think that over everything is just the most disheartening. And I know people have much more serious problems going on. I have my health, I have family, I have food on the table, everything is great. But, that is still a very disappointing thing. And I don't think I've come to terms with it yet. My friends and I are really thinking about the fact that, how when you know something is coming to an end, usually you are very aware of that. So you try to make the most of everything you're doing.
Right.
So every party and every annual tradition of college that was happening these last few months, we weren't expecting to not have those. So we were
Yeah.
anticipating what was coming, like the senior bar crawl or other senior events, taking pictures on campus, little things like that. Basically, I think the hardest part of it is that the time that we did have on campus for the senior year, we didn't treat as much as our last in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's almost like we wish, I mean, you can't predict the future, but it's just annoying because I didn't treat things as truly the last of everything like I should have back in
Mm.
January and in early February. So that's been really difficult to grapple with. I had to move out of my apartment on campus because campus shut down, and that was probably the most tangible, hard experience that made me feel like, wow, this is really, it's over, which
Oh,
is so sad. Like, it's just so many people I didn't get to say goodbye to, which is crazy. Like, I know we have FaceTime and whatever, but that in person, we have to figure this out some way to come together in some way once this is all over because it just doesn't seem right. I won't feel like this chapter of life has completed if I don't get a graduation or if I don't get to see my college friends who knows where we're all going, we're all separating. So
oh gosh.
it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
You got me tearing up over here.
Oh, don't tear. I didn't tear, but just a little. Yeah. And I think that I mean, hey, there are some positive sides of this. Our school just announced that the way that they're going to be grading things is going to change. So now we're on a pass fail system, which basically means that if you want to boost your GPA, you can keep your regular letter grades. Or if you aren't happy about a class that will hurt your GPA, you can make it pass fail, which means it won't do anything to your GPA. So it won't harm it and it won't help it. So and they're giving us this option until the last day of classes in May. So literally, we have the opportunity to see where we are at the end of the semester and decide, I got an A in this class. I want to add it to my GPA. Or, I got a C in this class. I don't want to add it to my GPA. But you
Mm-hmm.
will still get that credit, which is like, whew, a little token of happiness in all this craziness.
Yeah, I think that they've dealt with that really well. A lot of schools right now are getting a lot of flack for the way that they've been dealing with, you know, the craziness and the changes that are happening. But I will say UMD has been giving its students a lot of understanding policies, and I think this being the biggest one. They also have a policy, if you don't have access to technology, you can email them and they will literally FedEx you a laptop and FedEx you materials for you to use right now, because they know that with classes moving online, if you know, especially being a state school, people come from all different walks of life. So it could be you're just going to campus like 2 days a week, taking 2 classes, working full time otherwise, and you're just going to the library to do your homework and you're using the laptops there. And then all of a sudden, the library is closed and campus is shut down. You don't have access. And they will send it to you. So I think UMD has shown some leadership in being accommodating, but I do think the fact that, you know, graduation in person being completely canceled is obviously really hard. And it's a moment you really want to have, but you know, we're gonna find a way, Liv. We're gonna have a graduation for all you seniors. I don't know how we're gonna do it. It's gonna have to be post-social distancing,
Right.
but we'll set up a little like a row in a park somewhere, and we'll all sit there, and I'll dress up as Lo and hand you your diploma.
That's amazing. Yeah, my family was joking, like if they do just a ceremony for me, it's like, well, at least you're gonna graduate top of your class. So, you
That's
know,
hilarious. I love that.
just gotta keep your head up in some ways and try and find the positive and everything. And I think that there is just gonna have to be consistency across all schools, whether it be high school, college, all over the nation. So that's why I feel like if we're online for the rest of the semester, then all colleges should be online for the rest of the semester. Because how do
Right.
you, some states have more of corona in them than others. I still think you have to be consistent. I feel like that's the only fair way to do things. You know what I mean?
Right.
For right now, I know in the state of Maryland that public schools, like public high schools, are closed until a certain day in April. But I don't think that that should be the thing. I think if I know we're college, but I think even if college is closed, these schools should be closed and have all online for the rest of the semester.
Right.
Because regardless of what we're taking and the length of the school years, we're still all humans around the same age. So I don't think it makes a difference. There's still teachers that want to teach and not get infected, you know?
Let me tell you, when I went out bike riding a couple days ago and I was out with my mom, so DC schools are out of class right now. The mass groups of people I saw walking around were all high school kids. And they were all high school kids going to a party and like whatever at this one spot in Georgetown. It's like, I get it. If I was their age, I might not fully be able to grasp the severity of the situation either. And also, for DC, they've decided to just like close and cancel school until a certain date, not move online, because not everyone has access to, you know, at least with the public schools, not everyone has access to those online materials like laptops and stuff. And it's like such a hard scenario. I can't even imagine being a public school, like a district's public school. I don't know what you would call them, like chancellor or whatever right now, because how do you deal with that situation? If you have a bunch of high schoolers, middle schoolers, whatever, all out of school, like, you know, they're going to be wreaking some havoc. Like kids having nothing to do for a month is bad, and it puts a lot of stress on parents and stuff. But also, do you keep teaching classes online when you know that some kids just won't be able to have access? Like, is that fair? Is it fair to give kids who are already, you know, disadvantaged when it comes to succeeding in the system, like push them even further back? I don't know how you bridge that gap. I don't know how you deal with it. And that's for the most part why there hasn't been a lot of consistency in terms of like high school situations. Because I know like my high school, which was a private high school, we had a school program where we all had iPads. So they are fully prepared. They transitioned to online very seamlessly. Every kid was given an iPad if you went to school there. But we paid tuition. At public schools, they might not have the resources to be like, oh, all of a sudden, here, everyone gets a computer. And also, how are they going to get all these kids computers? And yeah, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how you deal with this situation.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not envious of the person in charge of figuring that out in different schools. And then you have just the basic need of maybe some of those students only got their meals through school,
Mm,
those after school programs, lunchtime, obviously, like there's so many levels to everything, and so much that, someone like you and I have the privilege of not worrying about,
right.
but that are very real issues for a lot of people. So it's tricky. It's all unprecedented territory, but the only way we're even gonna attempt to get back to some sort of normalcy, which everybody knows, is to stay home.
Stay the fuck home.
Quédate en tu casa. Oh,
Restez à la maison, s'il vous plaît. Guys,
yes.
I know not everyone can. Some people are considered essential workers and they have to go to their jobs. We got doctors, we got nurses, we got health professionals, we got policemen, we got firemen, we got all these people who still need to go, but they need to go. And you do not need to go to your friend's house, okay? No, you don't have to.
No. It's like you're complaining about not being able to see your friends, but you're going to be complaining longer if you attempt to go see them. It
And
just, oh,
that's the biggest issue I think the US is facing right now, as we touched on earlier, is that people are grasping this issue late and they weren't taking it seriously for so long. And to be fair, things change every day with this virus. Like the amount of numbers going up. I mean, New York State is just like a petri dish right now. It's scary up there. They have like 50% of cases or something are in New York State. But it just augments and augments. But if you stay home and you limit your social interactions, you are helping everyone to get out of this faster. And this was a huge issue with spring breakers, because some people, when they left for spring break, the gravity of the situation wasn't that bad yet. Like, people didn't really understand what's happening. And then some spring breakers, because of course this virus just had to come when it was spring break, when the most amount of youth were going to be traveling. Some spring breakers were interviewed and they're like, I don't care if I get corona. Like, it's not going to hurt me. So what? And I think that now with these new statistics coming out showing that young people are getting just as sick as old people, I'm like, I hope this changes people's minds, especially, in Florida, where they're not closing the beaches. Like, just don't go. Just stay home. I know it sucks. You can still go out. Like, I mean, right now, I still go out and I try and get a walk in or get a workout in or something outside every day. But I do it by myself. And, when I pass people, I try to keep some distance between us and stuff like that, being aware. But just stop with the large meetings of people. You can survive. You can survive a couple weeks without hitting the bars or hitting a group party or something like that. Like, you can, I promise you. With staying home, I feel like there's been a lot of pressure, especially on artists, to take advantage of this free time to, market themselves and brand themselves and be creative. And while I think that there has been some great stuff made during coronavirus already thus far, and people have really come together in artistic communities, it's also really hard to have to sit at home and kind of being told, if you are an artist right now, you should be making your career and branding yourself, and you should be using all this extra time to, get jobs and all of this stuff. And you can't force creativity like that. I think people think that all you need is free time. It has to be inspired in some way. And I also think that if you're not applying to 20 jobs a day in your free time, that's okay. People are making it seem like you have to take full advantage of this free time to further your career or whatever it be. But it's also okay to be here and say, this shit is crazy, and I just want, in my extra 2 hours of free time that I wouldn't normally have this week, I just want to spend that time watching Netflix and eating some ice cream. That is totally fine. And don't feel all these pressures to use this time to be working 24/7. Don't let it influence you. Do what's right for you And if that means making TikToks, then make TikToks. And if it means cuddling with your dog or going for a walk, also do that. It doesn't need to, just because you're home doesn't mean you need to be working
I
24/7.
100% agree. Literally, part of this whole being home thing is to slow down and take time for yourself to watch that show, to read that book, to cook that bread, everything that you want to do. Because there's so much time, there's time for everything. So it's like you can literally, if you feel like you have to stay productive, just schedule, maybe make it in a schedule that time to unwind and relax in whatever way that is for you. And I think what you said, Margot, about you can't force creativity is so true. And when I listen to a lot of celebrity interviews, and particularly with singers, a lot of them talk about how they need life experiences to write their new album, to influence what they create. So it's not likely that you're going to sit at home and just make a full album based off doing nothing.
Right,
so
right.
It's possible, but
unless it's all about the, pandemonium and coronavirus.
Like Cardi B. Cardi B. That gets me. But yes, so true. Such a good point, Margot. On a slightly more positive note, because we do try and keep things positive in such a hard time, I have been loving social media lately. There have been some funny ass memes. The internet has literally leveled up. The internet has become more funny. Social media is popping off with videos, memes. Cardi B's rant about coronavirus is great. You should go watch it if you can.
With the piano instrumental.
And if anyone finds that, because I've lost it in my DMs, go email us the link to it or put it in our DMs on the Instagram, because it's so funny. It's great. And a lot of celebrities have been doing Instagram lives, as I'm sure most of you have seen, which is a good way, to see what they're doing during their quarantine, because we're naturally interested in what they're doing. And there have been some celebrities doing some really great things, like Angelina Jolie just recently donated $1 million to No Kid Hungry. Let us think in. $1 million to No Kid Hungry, which is an organization that helps with COVID-19 relief for children that aren't getting food during this time, which is just amazing. Like, that has to be shouted out, because that's awesome.
I've seen a lot of celebrities donating to various foundations. I saw that Kristen Bell and her husband, Dax Shepard, I guess they own some buildings, apartment buildings in Los Angeles, and they're waiving rent for this month just because of things are so crazy. So it's nice to see that those who are more well off or more fortunate right now, it's nice to see people donating in this time of need and trying to help out.
Absolutely.
Also, another really amazing internet thing that I saw was, did you see the penguins
roaming around?
Yes, they are so cute. And I've never been happier than seeing those penguins be able to be free and roam around the zoo.
Oh, so cute.
So I think that it's time for a little savage second.
Okay, all this misinformation coming from the country's leadership is pissing me off. I don't care what POTUS says. I don't care what all these different governors other than Andrew Cuomo are saying, because is that his name, Andrew? Okay, because they are just inconsistent. Listen to the experts, people, doctors, scientists, epidemiologists. Those are the experts. The CDC. Get your information from there. I'm so tired of these leaders thinking they know what they're doing, other than Andrew Cuomo. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay, listen, neighbors. Can you look me in the eye? Listen, I am not the coronavirus. I may be carrying the coronavirus, but I am not the virus itself. You can look me in the eye when you pass me in the street. No, you can still keep 6 feet between us, but you can still look me in the eye. When I say hello, you can say hello back. I'm still a human being, and I am not just a petri dish.
Thank you very much.
That is petty. They're treating you like not a human being.
I'm not the coronavirus.
All right, for today's quote of the day, I have an unknown one that just kind of goes along with this whole period of life that we are in right now. And all it says is, it's okay not to be okay. In this state of the world and everything going on, remember that. However you're feeling is valid. And if it's not positive and happy, that's okay too. It's okay not to be okay.
Love it. So true. My quote is from the talented Nicole Kidman. And she said, life has got all those twists and turns. You've got to hold on tight and off you go. And I just feel like we just all have to hold on tight during this crazy ass time, and off we're gonna go. This will be over soon enough, and everything will return to somewhat of a new normal, and we're all gonna get through it. Just take care of yourselves. Make sure you're sleeping and you're eating and checking in on your mental health. And with that, we will see you guys in 2 weeks.
Stay safe and stay healthy.
Bye.
And that is our show. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at popoffsis.podcast and our personal accounts at Lydia__Parker
and at mtrouvé. Be sure to check out all of our episodes at popoffsis.wixsite.com/website. Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.